A very good afternoon to Her Royal Highness Princess Sonam Dechan-Wangchuk, Dr. Sudhir Krishnaswamy, Vice Chancellor, NLSIU, Professor Nigam, Shri H.K. Patil, Minister of Law and Parliamentary Affairs, Legislation and Tourism, and Dr. M.C. Sudhakar, Minister of Higher Education of the Government of Karnataka, Mr. Manan Kumar Mishra, Chairperson of the Bar Council of India and the Bar Councillors, two distinguished Chief Justices of the High Courts who are in our midst today in the morning, Justice Prasanna Varare of the Karnataka High Court and Justice T.S. Sivagnanam, Chief Justice of the Calcutta High Court. Of course, my own very distinguished colleagues who have joined me here from the Supreme Court, other judges of the High Court, faculty members, guests, graduating students, and your families above all. Before I proceed any further, I must wish the class of 2023 congratulations to one and all. This day marks a momentous occasion in your lives, and it gives me no greater pleasure than to celebrate your entry into the legal profession with you. Let me begin by giving you a bit of trivia. The Supreme Court at present, as all of you who follow the newspapers, and if not the newspapers, social media, would know, is engaged in a very seminal constitutional issue where a 5-judge bench, the Constitution bench, is deciding on sensitive constitutional issues. But the trivia I wanted to share with you is that the paper books cover all of 16,318 pages, 24 volumes of case documents cover 13,525 pages, 30 volumes of the case law compilations cover 16,370 pages. The written submissions of the petitioners, 962 pages, and the written submissions of the respondents, 660 pages, all making today a total record of 47,835 pages. But the entirety of the record is digitized, it's scanned. And all the judges who are on the bench are paperless, and almost every member of the bar is paperless as well. I say this, though it's really a piece of trivia, to tell you something more fundamental. You are the people, the graduating class, and the people who follow you and your faculty. You are essentially the people who are driving the change, because technology in your hands is what it is to a fish in water. For us, it's a learning process. We've put out a handbook just last week on essential gender stereotypes which have pervaded the legal profession, to sensitize our judges on why we shouldn't call a woman a housewife, or a woman a chaste woman, or a woman who has been raped, a woman who has been ravished. These are expressions which have been used very regularly in our legal discourse. We have attempted to sensitize our judges to why these are no longer possible in modern India. Why do I say this when I talk to you? I think in all these initiatives which we adopt in the Supreme Court as the highest judicial institution in the country, we are driven by your aspirations for a new India, by your aspirations for social change. The National Law School, Bangalore, is synonymous with exceptional legal education. its establishment marked the democratization of legal education in India, and in many ways, the democratization of the legal profession itself. Before the advent of the NLUs, it was largely those students whose family members were lawyers who chose to read the law. With the establishment of the NLSIU, the doors of the legal profession were thrown open, and more students, without any connection to the legal community, chose to pursue the law. In fact, two of my current judicial law clerks, Spurti Kotha and Pradeep Dikshit, and one of my law clerks last year, Sharbari Kothaude, who are first-generation lawyers, are alumni of NLSIU. They speak of their time on the Verdant campus in Nagar Bhavi with a fondness that I'm sure you too will display someday, not far from today. Enormous as our institutions seem to be, our institutions are not infallible. Not very long ago, and I was so delighted to see the exhibit today in the library, which we inaugurated, not so long ago, Cornelia Sorabji, India's first female advocate, was not permitted to make submissions in court unless she was aided by male advocates. Her contemporary, Sudhanshu Bala Hazra, was met with picket fences when she attempted to enter the exam hall at her law university. Unfortunately, these stories are not ones which we can leave behind in our history books. Although legal education and the legal profession have made great strides, much remains still to be done. To borrow the words of Robert Frost, the legal profession has miles to go before it can even afford or thinking of sleeping. I recently heard a story that left me heartbroken. I was told that a young student began their internship at a law office when their supervisor asked them which caste they belonged to. Upon hearing the answer, the intern was told not to return to the office. I must confess that I was filled with despair when I heard of this incident. As lawyers, we are keenly aware of society and its injustices. Our duty to practice and uphold constitutional values at every point in our lives is therefore greater than that of a common citizen. Yet this incident shows that some lawyers are violating the law, leave aside upholding constitutional values. I spoke about Cornelia Sorabji and Sudhanshu Bala Hazra in the 19th century. Let's flip back to more contemporary times. When my late former wife, who was a member of the bar, and she gave up practice as a litigation counsel when I became a judge, when she went for a job interview to a law firm, she asked what the working hours are going to be. And the answer was, well, there are no working hours at all. Working hours are 24/7, 365. And then she asked, but what do women with families do? And the answer was, well, there is no family life if you want to join our law firm. And you better find a husband who can do your chores at home. So this is, in so many which ways, the reality which pervaded our profession in 2003 or 2004 that I speak about. But things are changing, and I come before you with a sense of optimism today, because things are changing, and you and your immediate predecessors are the agents of change in our profession. I have frank conversations with my law clerks. Last year, 4 of my 5 law clerks were women. I have frank conversations with them. It's not uncommon for my law clerks to come and give me a call in the morning and say, sir, would it be all right if I work from home today because I'm suffering from menstrual cramps? And I tell my law clerk, please feel free to continue to work from home today. I'm sure you're going to be doing your work as usual. But do take care of yourselves and rest a bit, because health comes first. It's important that we have these conversations. It's important because we have these conversations for the simple reason that we cannot believe that or pretend that these issues do not exist in our society. The Supreme Court Bar Association came to me the other day, and usually they come with a list of demands, understandably, because I'm the head of the family. And I told the women lawyers, 2 or 3 of them who are part of the executive committee, that before you leave, I want to tell you that I've installed sanitary napkin dispensers in the women's toilets in the Supreme Court of India. So I think these conversations have to take place if we have to make our institutions as equal opportunity workplaces. But I feel better when I remember that young lawyers such as yourselves are sure to challenge the status quo when it is unfair. Being a good person and being a good lawyer are not mutually exclusive. And if you ever find yourself in a situation when one comes at the cost of the other, I urge you to be a good person first. Lift others up when you have the opportunity to, even if it is easier to do nothing. For people in my position, the easiest thing in the world is to do nothing. But that is not the call of duty or conscience. To do nothing is not an option for judges, and it ought not to be an option for lawyers as well. Treat all those who come across you with the same amount of respect. Regardless of the type of lawyer you become, do your bit to make ours a more inclusive profession. World over, the adversarial nature of legal systems places a premium on success, be it by winning a particular case, earning the most amount of money, or amassing the most power. But at what cost? This is the question we must ask ourselves in our mission to be successful. If the cost of being successful is that we must abandon our values, trample on others, be unjust and unfair, act against our conscience, or even merely be indifferent in the face of injustice, then I must tell you that the price is simply too high to pay. Also be warned that the cost is never extracted all at once. Never believe that your conscience will be extracted away from you all at once. You will not transform into someone unrecognizable overnight. Rather, day by day, the seemingly insignificant decisions you take and the corners you cut will add up. Do not sacrifice your principles on the altar of money or fame, for in the words of William Shakespeare, this above all, to thine own self be true. Your efforts will not be in vain because society as well as our institutions are malleable. Slowly but surely, we are headed towards a more just world. I was sharing with Her Royal Highness the inevitable and obvious fact that our profession is today becoming a focal point for the entry of more and more women lawyers who are going to transform our society. But gender is not just a woman's thing. Gender is as well a man's thing as well. The residents of numerous villages in a district called Gadchiroli in Maharashtra were required to travel about 250 kilometers, spanning 2 days to reach a sessions court. A month ago, the district, which is home to a predominantly tribal population, turned a new page in its history. A district and sessions court were established at a village called Aheri, and my very distinguished colleague, Justice Bhushan Gavai, inaugurated it. This was indeed cause for celebration, because it made what is sometimes a court of first instance more accessible to the common people. To many in this country, the court of first instance is also the court of last resort. Now, this quest for justice is not easy, but a few things can make the journey a little easier. The company of a few good friends, the ability to see the bigger picture, and of course, a sense of humor. We lawyers tend to lose the ability to laugh at ourselves, but it is one of the qualities that will hold you in good stead. Many years ago, in a hotly contested case, an irate judge is said to have asked the lawyer arguing in his court, "Do you take me for a fool?" That came the response from the lawyer. "If I agree, I will be in contempt of the court. And if I disagree, I will be committing perjury." Even the judges burst out laughing. A story which is told to us by our forebears is that in the 1950s, when you didn't have the digital ESCR, a book was handed over by a very distinguished lawyer to the bench in a constitution bench of the Supreme Court. When the judges opened the page, they found that there was a bug in the book. So the judges mentioned to the very distinguished lawyer, they said, "But Mr. Counsel, you have handed over a book with a bug to us." So the lawyer said, "My lords," he said, "some bugs have an uncanny ability to make their way from the bar to the bench." Finally, I would like to address a concern that is specific to graduating classes. Many of you may have worried about what the future holds for you. Some of you may be worried that you may not have made the right decisions in your professional life. Rest assured, young friends, that there is no cause for concern. I too remember being all of 22 years of age while leaving the comfort of my alma mater, uncertain of the strength of my choices. With the benefit of hindsight and a good 4 decades in the legal profession, I can tell you that there is no such thing as a wrong decision. If you embark upon a particular path today, you're not bound to take it for life. If, for example, you have chosen to be a transactional lawyer or a litigator or an academic for now, embrace the role with all your heart. As our philosophers tell us, live in the present. If you are dissatisfied, you can always choose another position, remembering that no decision is set in stone can ease the pressure that you may feel to take the right decision at every stage in your career. Some of you in the audience may be anxious about the fact that you are yet to identify the career path that you wish to pursue. Do not be in a rush to decide. Explore all avenues available to you and take your time to settle upon a single path. Life is long, and a few years spent exploring the possibilities and wonders of the law will not disadvantage you in any way. Each job will give you valuable skills and experiences that are almost always transferable to another job. And if you ultimately do not feel like you wish to choose a single role to occupy, that is fine too. The important thing is that you are happy at the end of each day. And try and ask yourself whether you've left the world around you a little bit better at the end of each day of your life. We're now coming to the end of my address this morning. I'm told that your generation refers to the final time that an event takes place as an OLT, or one last time. And that is a moment which is bittersweet. Each of you must have had many OLTs in the last few months of university of life, but from the day of your graduation, you will have what I call many FTs, or first times. The first time when you speak to a client all by yourself, the first time you appeared in court, the first time your employer praises your work, and the first time they criticize it, your first paycheck, and the first time you wear a gown and a band. May your FTs be as memorable as your OLTs. You each have more to look forward to than to mourn. I hope I do not receive any brickbats for fashioning my own acronym, FT. Finally, my salutations to your faculty and to your parents who have mentored you, guided you, and taken you through these formative years of your lives. Remember them. Remember, the higher you go, don't ever kick the ladder through which you have ascended through the journey of life. Thank you and congratulations.